As I was looking at the game's leaderboard compiling data for an upcoming video, I came across something very interesting. And I just could not believe my eyes when I first saw this. The #1 ranked player in the entirety of Marvel Rivals is currently a Hulk main. That's right, the hero we often see near the very bottom of the tier list as one of the worst performing heroes in the entire game, especially considered from the Overwatch pros, and one that a lot of people have been sleeping on, is actually being utilized to its fullest potential to carry games at the highest peaks of elo in ranked. And as you can see, they're not just using Hulk for a game or two, that is their main hero. And so in today's video, we're going to be unraveling how this player called Nevix has mastered the Hulk, and how they're able to have this much impact by analyzing the combos, the tricks, and the strategies that they utilize to make Hulk become this unstoppable powerhouse that can carry games on his own, so that you are equipped with all of the knowledge to do the same in your own games. With that being said, hey everyone, my name is Dark Hero and let's get into it. One thing to note about his team composition is that you will rarely see Hulk being played as a solo tank, and more often than not you'll have a tank like Magneto or Doctor Strange that have their barriers to protect the team and help them carry the payload forward, and Hulk is there to act as a secondary tank. Now we can see the way that Nevix is playing the Hulk is kind of harassing the enemy backlines as well as their assassins, trying to make sure that they cannot dive your own team, always putting pressure on them, trying to stun them, so on and so forth. And as you can see, going in whenever their main tank goes behind, using the barrier to be able to block incoming damage, and then go in to make sure that the enemies use their cooldowns. And because Hulk has such a massive HP pool, you're going to be fine most of the time, and again you can use that barrier very often to negate some damage. Let's see, paralyzes the Luna Snow. Tries to kill Magneto, doesn't quite do it, but he's able to make out thanks to his passive that now turns him into Bruce Banner. Kind of like D.Va in Overwatch, where now you are in this smaller form. You need to hit the enemies either by shooting them with your primary fire or by using the grenade to be able to generate enough energy to turn back into the Hulk. Now this is where the fights tend to get dicey, but he manages to get enough energy to get back into the Hulk. And he's gonna be able to buy some time here. Let's see if he can stall out the first point. Now you can see that the Hulk actually has a lot of mobility with his leap, and that allows him to have a lot more mobility as a tank compared to all the other ones. And that is the extra pressure that allows him to put a lot more damage out in the field. And then he pops his ultimate while he is in the Hulk form, that is going to transform the Hulk from his hero form into the Monster Hulk for a limited amount of time. I believe it is a 12-second period, and in this time you get a lot of bonuses. For starters, your punches go from dealing 40 damage to 70 damage and have slightly more range. You also get almost twice as much HP, going from 650 HP to 1400 HP. Now Hulk here has 800 HP because that's the season bonus for Hulk. But on top of that, you also get the special ultimate that Hulk can do while he is in the monster form, where he can grab an enemy. And that is actually a big mistake that a lot of people tend to do with Hulk. That after watching Nevix play with Hulk a lot of times, it's something that he actually rarely does. So this grab animation that you can do with Hulk is something that I see a lot of very bad Hulk players do as soon as they transform into the monster form. However, that is a big mistake because, for one, this does not do a lot of damage. While you are grabbing and hitting the enemy, you do 5 different hits, each of them dealing 40 damage for a total of 200 damage. But because you do this damage over a 5-second duration while you are grabbing the enemy strategists are going to have plenty of time to heal their ally, and keep in mind that you only have 12 seconds in the Monster Hulk form. So you really want to abuse this and only utilize this grab ultimate near the very tail end of your transformation whenever it is about to run out, as the grab animation is not going to cancel if your timing for the transformation runs out. And while you are doing this, you also have a 30% damage reduction throughout the entire animation, so you can just do this to apply pressure to a tank, for example, allow time for the rest of your team to dive the enemy composition, maybe to remove a duelist from the enemy team, something like that. But again, keep in mind that it is not necessary for you to go into the ultimate each time that you go into the Monster Hulk form, because as I've watched Nevix play with this character, he often does not do that with his hero unless he feels like it is extremely beneficial for his team. Now positioning is absolutely key with Hulk, as he is a very large character, so if you just keep roaming around the map and trying to jump enemies, you're going to take a lot of damage even though you have a large HP pool. People will be able to stun you and kill you, so you do need to be careful about your teammate's position, and also make sure that you don't take a lot of shots while you're trying to tank. And also you can see how Nevix tries to move around the different structures that are created by Hulk, or even just the map itself. He tries to move around so that he is able to hit the enemy but also avoid incoming shots from enemies. And right here, as he is about to die, he's going to pop his ultimate, because that is going to heal him up all the way up to full. And because of the season bonus, in the monster form, Hulk gets 1550 HP, and he's able to bully Luna Snow out of the fight, and that is going to be enough for them to get a lot more time. And will they be able to get the win here at the very first point? Let's see. He's by himself trying to dodge attacks and still contest the point. He does go down, but he goes back into the Bruce form, and it's not quite enough. They're going to be able to get the first point. Now, I do want to point out this moment right here where he sees that Hulk is about to go down, he sees his HP going down, and he decides to leap into the air simply to avoid incoming damage, because the enemies won't be able to land all of their shots by rapidly aiming at the sky. That is a very good way for you to avoid damage very momentarily, and it is something that you should learn from Nevix, as it is a very powerful tool to give time for your strategist to heal you and for the rest of your team to join you so that you can then win the objective. Again, look at how he's positioning. He sees that there's two assassins coming for the backline of his team, and he immediately puts pressure on the Psylocke and gets her to move out of the way, and becomes a lot more useful that way. Now, unfortunately, there's not much you can do against the Psylocke ultimate, but you can still pop the barrier like he did right there, giving time for the strategists to heal the rest of their team, while both tanks are safe from damage. And this really is what makes Hulk such a good character. Having ranged attacks with right click to apply a little bit more pressure, having his shift be a 250 HP shield that he can give himself, and also a 100 HP shield to his allies that will also feed into his ultimate, and that is on top of his E ability that can stun enemies for 2 entire seconds, and even if someone else hits the enemy, that is not going to wake them up. Again, despite being a character that seems not a great tank when playing by himself, with the right coordination and with a secondary tank, you can put a lot of pressure on the enemy team and achieve great results. And right here we see Nevix stun the Groot to be able to dive the backline momentarily. That is the perfect way to utilize his E, and from the multiple games that I have watched Nevix play with Hulk, he doesn't utilize his E to stun an enemy and then go for the kill. More often than not, he's going to use his E as a way to negate one character from the team fight to then focus on someone else. Like right there in that example, he stunned the tank, the Groot, and decided to focus and dive the enemy Black Panther, which in turn the Black Panther had to use his dash to get out of the way, and that is going to cause the enemies to use some of their cooldowns, and that is going to give you an advantage in a big team fight. Another way in which I've seen Nevix use his E ability with great success is, for example, when fighting 1v2 against a duelist and a strategist. What a lot of bad Hulk players will do is they will stun the duelist and try to defeat the strategist, but what Nevix instead does is he stuns the strategist and focuses on knocking out the duelist, as the duelist in that case, unless they're playing Wolverine for example, is not going to be getting a lot of healing from the fight, and the Hulk will be able to finish them off. And that play also has a lot less variance because the strategists often have abilities that allow them to regain HP very quickly, and this is the way that Nevix uses his E ability to its fullest potential to ensure that he can win those team fights. Once again diving the Luna Snow, trying to put pressure on the backline. He actually manages to defeat her, even jumps up into the air and grabs the Iron Man with a leap. Awesome stuff right there. He's able to stay up for a little longer with the shield, which is enough to get him his ultimate to go into the monster form. And look at the absolute mess that he's doing off the enemy team. Firing projectiles to deal damage, diving the enemy backline because we're in overtime now and you want to make sure that they are not able to step into the vehicle. And just like that, he's able to win the first round. But that was only the first round. It's always easier to defend the payload rather than to push it. So let's see how well he does here. As you can see at the very start of combat, he goes up into the air, tries to go into the backline to put pressure on the enemy team, applying some CC to the tanks after seeing that he pushed the backline away, and gave space to his team to push the payload forward. And just see how far he's willing to go up to put pressure on the enemy team, to give time for his team to push the payload. Always jumping into the enemy backline. And again, because he has the extra safety of having Bruce Banner as the final form, he's not necessarily out of the fight, and he's able to enjoy the shield that is deployed by Magneto or even Doctor Strange, which I should also mention the special team-up ability that Hulk has with Doctor Strange and Iron Man, which are very beneficial for both of these characters. by teaming up with Doctor Strange, that is the quintessential tank of Marvel rivals, one that you see in your team about 9 out of 10 matches. The buff that Hulk is able to provide him is very significant, as not only will you be able to increase the range and the damage of Doctor Strange's E that can deal up to 130 damage if he is at 100 stacks of dark magic, but you will also remove the dark magic anti-heal debuff that Doctor Strange receives whenever he stacks the dark magic up to 100, which means that Doctor Strange will be able to use his E a lot more efficiently, because what happens is, without Hulk, Strange needs to use his E before it reaches 100 to ensure that he does not get the anti-heal debuff. But by doing that, sometimes he will be using his E at the not ideal time, when instead, when paired with Hulk, the Doctor Strange could preserve his E cooldown and ensure that he has the dark magic stacked at 100 for the perfect opportunity to use his ultimate going to the middle of all of the enemies and utilize his E to deal a massive amount of damage, because Doctor Strange can actually land his E on both the enemy and the clone that is created by Doctor Strange's ultimate. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of extra damage here, so that is a fantastic pair for Doctor Strange, which is another reason why Hulk is so successful. Being able to pair up with what most people recognize as the strongest tank in the game and increasing their power level is very fantastic. Additionally, Hulk also provides an increased damage to Iron Man's primary and secondary fire. Now, Iron Man is not necessarily in a great spot at the moment, as he is very easy to shoot out of the sky with Hela or even a Hawkeye, but because those characters tend to be banned right away once you reach the higher ranks, you will actually be able to pilot Iron Man and have a lot more success with him, because those two characters that counter him are going to be out of the picture 90% of the time. And of course, Iron Man also has a fantastic ultimate that can destroy entire team fights, as he will be able to one-shot people through Mantis' ultimate, which is another character that you will see pretty much in every single game. So just by having Hulk on the team, you can see how he can fill up those extra slots and add a lot more value to the team. But going back to Nevix, as you can see, he keeps on diving the backline, trying to apply pressure on the enemy strategists and duelists to ensure that they're not able to kill your allies, and again utilizing the bubble to make sure that he can survive those ultimates and also protect his allies. Goes up on the roofs to have high ground advantage, but he does not see a big opportunity, so he goes down and tries to apply pressure on the payload and keeps on doing this playstyle over and over again. You don't need to go too deep, you don't need to be too crazy looking for opportunities, just try to fish for something, look for an opportunity and try to capitalize on it once you see it. So right here they got the enemy Luna Snow to use their ultimate, but that was enough for Hulk to get his ultimate back as well, so he goes into monster form to try to get some extra damage and give time for the rest of his team to push up and maybe get a pick or two. He doesn't quite get anything out of it, but again, he's not rushing it, he's not utilizing the grab once he gets into his ultimate. He's trying to get a lot more value and patiently waiting to see what the enemy is doing to also ensure that he does not die in a way that is going to not give an advantage to his team. And just see how much time he can take there in these team fights, especially when he has a strategist behind him. And just like that, they're able to slowly take over the point and get that push in. Ooh, he actually manages to fish that Psylocke, paralyzes her over the corner and is able to defeat her. It's always great when you get a pick off like that, because you're going to stagger the respawn timer for those characters, and that can allow the rest of your team to capitalize and dive the enemy team, because it's going to be a 6v5. And that is exactly what they're doing here, trying to dive into Magneto, push some extra damage, now going on to Groot and the enemy backline. And this is pretty much just a GG right away. Look at how much pressure they were able to put out by just having Hulk constantly jumping at the enemy backline, looking for opportunities, not rushing these plays. Again, he was in the middle of 3 enemies, he could have easily ulted there, but he waited for a more opportunistic moment, such as when he was running low on HP and people were chasing him, and now that the backline is separated from the front line, he can dive the enemy strategists, takes out the Luna Snow, and actually dies right there to the Mantis, but that is fine because he was able to put a ton of pressure. And I think that's actually the first death of the entire game. Thanks to his Bruce Banner passive, he actually doesn't go down as often. Now, I personally hate that he starts out in Bruce Banner. You kind of just always waste 1 or 2 extra seconds transforming, but I guess that's the point with Hulk, where you shouldn't really die too many times with this character because you have such great mobility and survivability, and that is something that we can all learn from Nevix right here. dives the backline, gets a pick, and then goes for the front line to help his teammates. He doesn't dive too deep into the backline by himself. That is something else to pay attention to. You always make sure that by the time that he finishes diving a character, he goes back with his leap, even if he doesn't get a kill, because it is important that he sustains himself and makes sure that he is alive to continue the team fights and continue applying pressure. And the enemy actually swapped to a Hulk as well to see if they can contend with Nevix, but that is not quite going to be enough. Now that is a danger that you're going to need to watch out for with Hulk being a big character, not having a shield as well, apart from his big barrier, is that you can very easily be CC'd by Luna Snow or Mantis. You need to watch out for that sleep, but given his massive HP build, that's totally fine. He's going to be able to sustain through all of that, while still applying pressure on the backline. He sees an opportunity, capitalizes it, jumps on the backline, still has the ultimate, and he's going to try to get Hulk out of there. Ooh, the enemy Hulk also goes into his monster form, but he paralyzes him. He's trying to push him out, and that's it. The Hulk versus Hulk skirmish results into the ending of the fight, a clean 2-1 victory, with of course Nevix being the clear MVP of the entire fight. And let's take a look at his score: 32 with 9 assists, with 17 final hits, a total of almost 19,000 damage and 42,000 damage blocked. So hopefully I was able to showcase to you guys the incredible value that Hulk has in the right hands, the right scenarios in which he can benefit his team and how he should be played, as well as how Nevix, the current rank 1 player in the entire game, pilots Hulk to have this much success with the character that everyone is sleeping on. And if you have learned something useful from this, please subscribe to the channel and let me know if you want to see another video like this for other heroes. With that being said, my name is Dark Hero and thank you all so much for watching.